The first Zionist organization, Heko Vevi Zion, the simplified English version is the Lovers of Zion. It was established in Edessa while the aftermath of the pogroms after the assassinations of Alexander II was occurring. The consequential immigration to Western countries also had the Lovers of Zion established all across said areas. Leon Pinsker was one of the head thinkers and leaders of the group, published an article titled Auto-Emancipation. In it, Pinsker lays out, the only remedy is the creation of a Jewish nation, of a people who live on their own land, the auto-emancipation of the Jews, a change in their status, becoming a nation like all other nations, acquiring a land designated for them. Purely intellectual in form, the lack of a coherent plan or strategy for this state meant ideas crept into all various Jews of different lifestyles. Secular intellectuals, social activists, and renowned rabbis. The Lovers of Zion attempted to establish several colonies during the 1880s in Palestine, with lackluster result. As a result, the group and the settlers looked to financial assistance. This came in the form of Baron of Rothschild in France. Rothschild complied with these requests, but only under his administrations of the colonies. Here we see overlapping negotiation of the Jewish political / intellectual religious business elite began their designs in the Levant. The subsequent shortcomings of the colonies led certain figures to criticize the current plan of funding the Jewish state. One figure in particular, Ehud Ha'am Asher Ginsburg, found the settlement to be of little worth. His main concern was that of the spirit of the nation. As Ahad puts it, aiming to bring the nation together, Kovevi Zion devotes all their forces and hard labor to augmenting the size of the settlement, paying no attention to the quality. But after all that toil, their opponents may well ask, what redemption is this small, impoverished settlements to us? Ahad is to be seen as the main founder of Spiritual Zionism, a branch of, with the main aim of a spiritual revival of the people. Particular with Ahad and the Spiritual Zionists, the one blind side of the whole Zionist movement, the existence of Arabs in Palestine, was one of their biggest talking points. Ehud wrote as a result of his visit to the Jewish settlements. This is a lesson we should have learned from our past, once and for all, that we should love and respect the people of whose midst we are resettling. And needless to say, treat them with fairness and justice. But what do our brothers in the land of Israel do? Exactly the opposite. They were slaves in their countries of the diaspora, and suddenly they find themselves in the land of freedom. This is what happens when a slave ascends to the throne. They treat the Arabs with hostility and cruelty. Ehud would have set up the Bnei Moshe, Sons of Moses, association in the 1890s, primarily focused on redirecting from Elia to Israel, but more to the spiritual training of the Jewish masses and cultivating of ethical Jewish nationalism. Spiritual Zionism would find its way to thinkers and leaders such as Martin Buber, a German Jewish philosopher, following along idyllic Hasidic lines of thought. Also against the ultranationalist colonial views of Zionism, Buber advocated for a spiritual Zionist approach. As he stated in a letter, I am least concerned with the Jewish state with guns, flags, and military medals. Not even in a dream. What will happen is up to those who create future. And that is why those who, like me, are aspiring to humanity and humanism should play a major role in this activity. In 1918, Buber's concern with the evolution of Zionism continued to grow. In a letter to his colleagues and fellow philosopher Shumel Bergman, we must make no mistake, nor fail to acknowledge, that most of the Zionist leaders and presumably those who are being led, are today unrestrained nationalists following the European model and imperialists. In parallel with Pinker's and the early Zionist sphere attempts at the Jewish state, a certain Viennese playwright and writer had made his forefront into an aspiring of a Jewish state, Theodor Herzl. During the early years of his life, he never focused on much about the state of the Jews, let alone the state for them. Only in his adulthood, with the rise of anti-Semitic groups in Austria and seminal events like the Dreyfus affairs, pushed Herzl, who believed prior in the possibility of assimilation, into finding a solution to the issue of the Jewish perils. Character-wise, Herzl was fairly intelligent and considered amongst his colleagues an excellent writer. However, not without his flaws. As his close friend Heinrich Kahner puts it, Herzl was intolerant, inhumane in his judgment of people, domineering, and a hyper-egoist. Herzl's first attempt to find content and build infrastructure came in 1895, with the meeting of the members of the elite Jews at the time, philanthropist Baron von Hirsch. Herzl himself had already seen himself as a de facto leader. "You are a great money Jew. I am a Jew of the spirit." The meeting with Hirsch led ultimately to nothing, with the philanthropist ranging from unimpressed to questioning the sanity of his guest. Herzl's next stop for financial aid would be the family consul of the Rothschilds. Before this, though, as a result of his meeting with Hirsch, led him to pen down a memorandum. Their works would find its way to the form of a pamphlet titled Der Judenstaat, or the Jewish State, which was published in 1896. The pamphlet's reception among the Zionists at the time were, at best, varied. Never active with the existing groups around the time, many were critical of relative unknown in the political sphere to assume such a role of leadership. Even among his friends, like the chief rabbi of the Vienna, Gudenmann, had expressed in response that Jews were not a nation, and they only had one thing in common: it's their belief in God. Others, such as spiritual Zionists like Ehad, were just as dismissive, as the Jews in Eastern Europe made a cultural renaissance their central focus. During the span of the next 8 years of Herzl's life, he spent towards building infrastructure and contacts for his Zionist aspirations. During these conventional debates and discussions would unfold of a direction of the Jewish state, from its geography to its economy. Herzl took the role as the Messiah King. "I have only an army of schnurrers. I stand in command of a mass of youth, beggars, and jackasses."
Reb Nachum the beggar.
Herzl's strategy laid in attaching and making contact with major figures and leaders of the given countries across Europe for support. Princes in Germany led to no major success. A visit to the Grand Vizier of the Ottoman Empire was also fruitless. His meeting with the Rothschild in France went horribly. After the fact, Herzl stated, "I consider the House of Rothschild a national misfortune for the Jews." On the flip side, however, Herzl's actions with meeting leading figures and representatives across Europe caught the ire and hope of his fellow Jews. One occasion, Jews in Sofia awaited him at the train station and shared his visit. Soon after, Herzl organized and fund conventions as a meeting of minds for Zionist figures to discuss the direction of pursuing the creation of the Jewish state. Hosted in Basel, Switzerland, the first Zionist Congress was held. An agreed upon preamble was formulated. 1. The programmatic encouragement of the settlement of Palestine with Jewish agricultural workers, laborers, and those pursuing other trades. 2. The unification and organization of all Jewry in local and wider groups in accordance with the laws of their representative countries. 3. The strengthening of the Jewish self-awareness and national consciousness. 4. Proprietary steps to obtain the consent of various governments necessary for the fulfillment of the aims of Zionism. Herzl, still pursuing the goal of gaining assistance from the empires, though he continued to fall short in gaining favors among them, ranging from Wilhelm II to the Ottoman Sultan, ministers under Russia, all proved fruitless endeavors. However, an opportunity arose with the Anglo Empire. In 1903, he met with the British Minister of the Colonies, Joseph Chamberlain, to discuss the proposal. Chamberlain had rejected the offers of a Jewish immigration project in the northern Sinai, instead offering a home in the location of Uganda. Herzl had accepted his proposal and forwarded ideas onto the debate floor of the 6th Zionist Congress. The proposal was put to a vote. 292 in favor, 176 against, and 143 abstained. However, Herzl would die, and during the 7th Congress, the offer was rediscussed and ultimately rejected. Despite the rejection, this would lay the groundwork for Zionism to work in the future with Great Britain, who was now seen as the most receptive towards ideas of creating the Jewish people.